Hi, this is Mrs. Robertson, and today we're going to be doing lesson 4 of chapter 4, add and subtract unlike fractions, and it's located on page 291 in your Math 7 book. All right, in the real world link, it says what fraction of 1 hour is equal to the sum of 15 minutes and 20 minutes? Well, there are 60 minutes in an hour, so 60 is going to be your denominator, and 15 is your numerator. 20 minutes. 20 is your numerator out of 60 minutes, which is 1 hour. You add them together, and that'll give you 35 over 60. Now, 35 minutes. Write each fraction of an hour in simplest form in the third column of the table. 5 minutes, what fraction of an hour is 5 minutes? 5 over 60, and that will simplify to 5 is your greatest common factor, 1/12. In this one, 10 is the greatest common factor. Divide them both by 10. 1/6. In this problem, 15 is your greatest common factor. 1/4. In this one, 20 is your greatest common factor. 1/3. And in this one, 30 is your greatest common factor. 1/2. In problem number 3, explain why 1/6 an hour plus 1/3 of an hour equals 1/2 of an hour. Well, we have to find our common denominator between a 6 and a 3. And you find your least common multiple. Sometimes it's called least common denominator. LCD is another name for LCM. Here, between a 6 and a 3, they both can divide a 6. So 1/6 stays the same, but you change 1/3 to 2/6. That gives you 3/6, which equals the answer 1/2 of an hour. In the next problem, explain why 1/12 of an hour plus 1/2 of an hour equals 7/12 of an hour. Once again, you have to find your least common multiple or least common denominator. They are the same thing. You look at between a 12 and a 2. Your least common multiple between a 12 and a 2 is going to be a 12. 1/12 stays the same. 1/2 equals 6/12. 1/12 plus 6/12 equals, equals 7/12. All right, now let's go to the next page. Add or subtract unlike fractions. This is on page 292. To add or subtract fractions with different denominators. Step 1, rename the fraction using the least common denominator. Put LCM, also known as least common multiple. Then, add or subtract as like fractions. Finally, if necessary, simplify the sum or difference. Okay, so let's do some of these. Before you can add two unlike fractions or fractions with different denominators, rename one or both of the fractions so that they have a common denominator. All right. Here, they did it with a number line, a model. 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. They had to cut it up into fourths. Now we're going to be using method 2 today. Method 2, you're going to find your least common denominator. What's the smallest number that 2 and 4 both divide? Now my technique is you look at the largest digit for your denominators. It's a 4. We know 4 divides 4. Will 2 divide 4? Yes. So it's going to be fourths. 1/2 equals 2/4, and 1/4 will stay the same, and you get 3/4. In order to add or subtract fractions, you have to have the same denominator. Then you just add the numerators or subtract the numerators. Now, let's do the problems at the bottom. In letter A, B, C, and D, I want you to do these. Now, be careful. In B and D, you are using negative signs, so be careful. I'm going to put it on pause. All right, so let's look at how we get the answers for these. In letter A, your common denominator between a 6 and a 3 will be a 6. Remember, it cannot be smaller than the largest of the denominator digits. 1/6 will stay 1/6. 2/3, 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 1/6 plus 4/6 gives you the answer 5/6, and it will not simplify. In letter B, 9/10 stays the same. That'll be a -5/10. 9/10 plus -5/10 will give you 4/10. But 4/10 will simplify. What will 4/10 simplify to, Nathan?
2/5.
Excellent, 2/5. In letter C, our common denominator between a 4 and an 8 will be an 8. 1/4 equals 2/8. 3/8 stays the same, and we have 5/8. In letter D, you had to find your least common multiple between a 4 and a 3. These are multiples. 4 times 2 is 8, times 3 is 12, and 12 was your least common multiple. 3 times 4 is 12. -1 times 4 is -4. 4 times 3 is 12. -1 times 3 is -3. So you have -4/12 plus -3/12 equals a -7/12. Any questions on how to do these problems? All right, make sure you show all of the work, not just the answers. I will be checking your books. Now let's go to page 293. On this page, we are combining more than two fractions. So the first thing you're going to do, well, let's see, in this problem here, they moved it around and they added -3/4 plus 7/4. The commutative property of addition allows you to move them around as long as it's all all addition signs. You can move things around. Now, if they weren't addition signs, then you can't do that. So they moved that around. -3/4 plus 7/4 will give you 4/4. 4/4 is the same thing as a 1. So 5/9 plus 1 is 1 and 5/9. Okay? Let's look at E and F. In E and F, I'm going to rearrange this. I'm going to have 2/5 plus 3/5, that equals 1, plus 4/7, that gives you the answer 1 and 4/7. Now let's look at letter F. In letter F, I'm going to have -3/10 plus 23/10 plus 5/8. Now, once again, the commutative property states you can move them around as long as it's the same sign. And it's only true for addition and multiplication. So those are the only signs. Now, -3/10 plus +23/10 leaves you with 20/10, which is 2. So you have 2 plus 5/8 equals 2 and 5/8. So 1 and 4/7, 2 and 5/8. Question, yes?
Do you have to move the signs around or not?
Mean the fractions around? No, you don't have to. But in this instance, you wanted to try it because then you didn't have to find your common denominator because it equaled a form of a whole number. Now let's look at this one. -2/3 minus 1/2. the first thing I want you to do before you even find common denominators, kids, is add the opposite. We are adding or subtracting integers, add the opposite. So you have negative 2/3 plus a negative 1/2. All right? So our common denominator between a 2 and a 3 is going to be a 6. Negative something 6 plus negative something 6. 2/3 is 4/6. 1/2 is 3/6. Negative 4/6 plus negative 3/6 is negative 7/6. And that equals a negative 1 and 1/6. Okay, this all goes with that problem there. Negative 1 and 1/6. All right? And they show you here, I just like for you to go ahead and right away get rid of the subtraction sign and make it a plus sign on that. So now let's do G, H, and I at the bottom. Add the opposite, add the opposite, add the opposite. Now I'm going to go through and find my common denominator. What's my common denominator between an 8 and a 4? Yes, 8. So we have 5/8 plus a negative 1/4 equals how many 8s? Yes, right. So 5/8 plus negative 2/8 is 3/8 because 5 plus a negative 2 is 3/8. I'll put the answer over here. I'll switch color of pen so that if they run into... What's my common denominator between a 4 and a 3? Yes, 12. And that's a negative 1. 3/4 equals how many 12s? Yes. 9/12. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. 1/3 equals how many 12s? Yes. Negative 4/12. So 9/12 plus negative 4/12 is 5/12. Now for the next problem, what's my common denominator going to be between a 2 and a 5 over here? Connor, James. 10. 1/2 is 5/10 and 2/5 is 4/10. 1/2 plus 4/10 is 9/10. Not hard, but it's just an extra thing you have to be very careful with. Let's go to page 294. On page 294, we have to choose an operation here. Word problems. Use the table to find the fraction of total population that has type A or type B blood. To find the fraction of the total population, add 21/50ths A and 1/10, which is type B. So 21/50ths plus 1/10, you have to find your common denominator, it's 50. So there, we're going to use 50. 21/50ths stays the same, and this will be 10 times 5 is 50, 1 times 5 is 5. So you have 21/50ths plus 5/50ths is 26/50ths, which simplifies to 13/25. Now let's do the guided practice on page 294, and then I will tell you what your assignment is for today. In number 1, what's our common denominator between a 5 and a 10? Renner. Yeah. Mitch. You could use 10. You could use 50, but let's use the least common one, which is 10. It's a little bit easier. But you could use a 50, but then you have to do more simplifying. 3/5, 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. 6/10 plus 1/10 equals the answer 7/10. Any questions on that? All right, in problem number 2, what's your least common multiple between a 6 and a 9? Jackson, what do you think it is going to be between a 6 and a 9? 18, excellent. So I'm going to put down an 18. They're both negatives. 6 times 3 is 18. 5 times 3 is 15. 9 times 2 is 18. 4 times 2 is 8. So now we are adding two negative numbers, so the answer is going to be a negative, 23/18. But we have to simplify it. How many 18s are in a 23? 1. And there are 5 left over, -1 and 5/18. Okay, in this one we can rewrite it as 7/8 plus 1/8, that equals 1 whole, plus 3/11, so it's 1 3/11. Now we are subtracting. Okay, we're going to add the opposite, add the opposite, add the opposite. Now we're going to find our common denominator. Between a 5 and a 10, it's going to be a 10. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. And that's already in tenths. 8 tenths plus -3 tenths is 5 tenths. But that will simplify to what? 1/2. Okay. Oh, what's our common denominator between an 8 and a 4? Yeah, 8. So we have 3/8 plus 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. 3/8 plus a positive 2/8 gives us the answer 5/8. See how much easier it is when you change the subtraction problems to addition right away? Just makes it easier. Now this one we know we've got different signs, so we're going to have to end up subtracting. Between a 4 and a 3, what's my least common multiple? Lacey. 12. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. Now this is going to be negative. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. 9 twelfths plus -4 twelfths is 5 twelfths. Any questions? Okay. Cassandra cuts 5/16 inches off the top of a photo and 3/8 of an inch off the bottom. How much shorter is the total height of the photo now? Okay. How much shorter? Well, at first I thought, oh, I need to know how tall the photo is. But no, they just want to know how much shorter it is. So I just add these two together. 5/16 plus 3/8. Okay, what's my common denominator between a 16 and an 8 going to be? Is it, Colin? What is it? It's going to be 16. Okay. 16, that stays the same. 8 times 2 is 16. 3 times 2 is 6. 5/16 plus 6/16 is 11/16 of an inch. Okay? All right. Now, compare adding unlike fractions and adding like fractions. Okay, how are they alike? Well, you add the numerators, but you first have to find, after you find a common denominator, it's the same process, isn't it? Unlike fractions, you have to find your least common multiple, and then you add it just like fractions. Okay, we're not going to spend a lot of time writing that down. So, homework assignment. Let's look at what we're going to do. Page 295. I want you to do all on page 295. Turn the page. On page 296, we can't do number 15 because that's about something we've not talked about yet. I want you to do 13, 14, Do number 16. Give a counter example. That means one where it doesn't work out, if you can. Then on page 29, so on this page, page 296, you're going to do 13, 14, and 16. Then on page 297, do all.
So what
All
is
right.
295?
Pardon me?
295.
You can watch the video. I'm going to post it. And that is what you're going to be doing for homework.